morning, this is Rick, and this is your seat at the table, and we are looking at Iron Crown Enterprises Pirates of Pelargir for the MERP role-playing game. Middle-earth role-playing. This is one of my more favorite ones. I've used it quite numerous times, and not just in MERP, but for basic rules and concept ideas for a lot of Dungeons and Dragons campaigns I've ran over the decades. I'm a big fan of not so much of pirates, but of naval combat, naval maneuvering, and adventuring in this along the coast, through the sea, or along rivers. So in fact, my current D&D Beyond campaign that I'm running in D&D Beyond is based off of a riverboat, and they're currently trying to traverse a marsh to get away from some bad guys, and it's running into other bad guys in the process, because that's kind of how the whole thing works. So we are looking at 3 low to mid-level adventures based on Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Each adventure stands on its own, can be set up in mass, produced and distributed by Iron Crown Enterprises. Yay. This was, let's see, 1987. Good gravy. I was just looking at my Star Warriors, because I just did a previous video on it. Of course, if you're on my channel, you've seen that it's on there and probably posted the same day, maybe, I don't know. Both were printed in 1987. That would have been 2 years after I graduated high school. I've been 20 years old, not that you guys care. Right. So we got some great maps in here. Pirates of the Pelargir. It works well with the source of the Pelargir source book and Sea Lords of Gondor, things like this. There opens up this whole coastline in this area of Middle Earth that is a contention point for Gondor and its southern and eastern neighbors, because a lot of conflicts have taken place over the centuries in the region, along the region. Of course, the havens of Umbar down here, and the pirates and privateers, etc., so on. So we got guidelines, player characters, adapting your module to your game. We have a player character table. So if you wanted to just pick somebody at random, here's all their stats and information, keeping in mind that everything is easily divided. So we divide by 5 or by 10. It's so we divide by 10. The constitution for this fellow would be 10, not 100. So, or 20 if you're dividing by 5. Introduction: Gondor and the Pirates of Pelargir. History of the Belfast Pirates. The Laughing Reaper and his crew. Gudrun Moonstone of the Laughing Reaper. Torhad Toric is actually 62 years old, but a long lifespan. A black Numerian is his, so he appears to be no more than 40, even taller than Gudrun. Pirates Lieutenants. Other inhabitants of the Moonstone Fortress. Chapter Adventure 1, the Lady Gwilyn at the Tipsy Triton. So let's see what we got here. First level player character should be adequate for this task of guarding Halaton's ship. As long as the PCs think quickly, 6 likely would-be adventurers are waiting for work. Tipsy Triton this evening. So they even provide you with working NPCs or character backgrounds and stuff. So you can pick one of these that are here. Basically, the task: if player characters take Haldon up on his offer, he will hire them for a fee of 30 gold pieces apiece for the voyage. Considering that a common laborer is lucky to see the equivalent of 5 or 6 gold pieces in a year, this isn't bad. Note the captain will not hesitate to take the Southerners, because he is a sensible man, knows that not all Southerners are pirates anyway. Southerners who are spending some time in Gondor are probably not all bad. Haldon rarely thinks of political activity such as spying. Player characters will not have the luxurious accommodations, but they will not be expected to sleep in the below decks hammocks like the common sailors either. One small cabin will be provided for the male NPCs and one for the females. These are cabins labeled passenger or supercargo. Supercargo is someone in charge of a specific cargo, and navigator, since the second mate is also a navigator at this time on the diagram. Because of Doran's presence, Halmar no longer shares his cabin with Vandar. The Amnes now bunks with the first mate, which does not make either of them happy. Player characters will not be expected to work on daily tasks aboard the ship. However, they will find that the sailors and other crew members will be more friendly to the new guards, decide to lend a hand. The skills that they learn this way may prove useful to player characters later. So we got the encounters with the sea monster, encounter with pirates. And then we move to adventure number 2, Search for the Raiders' Harbor. The Hardwood coastal town of Suk Oda, or Oda's Market, named after the first hetman or mayor, is abuzz of the news with the latest offense by the Laughing Raider, an attack on Gondorian merchant ship Lady Gwilyn. Hence, the characters would have been perhaps involved in that scenario of the previous one. So, player characters, if are veterans of the first adventure, they will probably have made second level by now. Remember, take points for travel and new experiences into account, well, points for combat, good ideas, and so on. The adventure was really geared for more third level, however, so give them some extra firepower by sending another NPC or two along with that. If Dorian has been kidnapped, Helmer and Vander, if still around, will certainly go along. If she hasn't, Vander will still offer to go. In addition, you may send either some appropriate NPCs or some from the ship's crew, or use some of these PCs as NPCs. So we have another selection of possible characters for tapping into, or player characters, non-player characters. The task for Adventure 2. The object is, of course, to discover the stronghold and the harbor of the Laughing Raider and his crew. No one really knows the identity of the pirate. Many have suspicion about Moonstone Fortress and its inhabitants. Residents of Suk Oda are not blind and are far from stupid. If gathering Moonstone's the only source of income, there's a lousy caravan stop. Where does he get so much money? All right. So, rewards. Houseland is offering 100 gold pieces for discovery of the Raider stronghold. Sakar is adding another 100 to the pot, and Hannah's addition to the reward fund brings the total of 450 gold pieces. Finally, who knows what the adventurers may find on their own during the search for the Raiders' den. So, Moonstone Fortress. First day encounters, approached by land. Night encounters, poisonous snakes, magical guardians, thicket of cat-called bushes, pit spider trap, desert troll. Second day encounter, approached by sea at the fortress. Venture tree into the Moonstone Fortress. Says if the PCs are involved in Venture 2 and possibly Venture 1 as well, they will simply report back to Halden, who will reward them and try to persuade them to return to the fortress. Dorian was kidnapped. He will beg them to go in this case. If Helmer is alive, he will insist on going alone to go with them the first time around, blah, blah, blah. By this time, they should be 5th level or they're close to it. This is supposed to be a much more potent thing. So we got a Dwarf Scout, a Gondorian Bard, several a Gondorian Ranger, an Umlai Warrior, other additional player characters or new NPCs to introduce, non-player characters, Moonstone Fortress layout, about encounters, gatehouse, outer wards and towers. There's the old fortress itself, all the inner workings and so on and so forth. The great house, upper levels, lower levels of the Moonstone Fortress. Your typical fortress crawl. Here's the underground section to the CK where they put their ships and hide them from passing nosy bodies. Counters, dangers and obstacles. The pirates, the pirate lads. The officers, the Moonstone itself is a magical device. Uma is not underestimated, had adopted the Moonstone Fortress her home. Godwin's the Lord with Zelkaitis as trusted virus regard any intruders get the opportunity to prove herself as a mage of true good, traps and snares. So there's a bunch of stuff. It's not a bad set of adventures, to be honest, and I like them, always have, and I find them quite adaptable to most role-playing game systems and worked well in D&D. It's just a matter of changing the place names, but the situation, the scenarios, all this stuff plays out. It's a great little module and adventure module, and this is from a guy really, irony of irony. I've said this numerous times, and I probably will continue to say it. Back in the day when I was really into buying lots of first and second edition Dungeons and Dragons, even Forgotten Realms, I didn't really buy a whole lot of modules, and they cranked out a lot. I played a number of them, don't be wrong. My friends bought them, and I'm quite familiar with some of the original first run stuff from back in the day, but I personally didn't buy them because I thought, gee, I got all these expensive core books that allow me the opportunity to create my own material. On the other hand, when I started getting into MERP and Middle Earth role playing, I realized that all these adventure modules, for the most part, now not every one. There's a handful, and I make notes of those. But they tie into the bigger picture. They give you an area, a better view of a local area. So, like I said, in this case, you're getting a good view of how the coastlines of Horondor would typically be and operate, and the areas between Pelargir and southern Gondor and uh, Umbar, etc., like that. So it is really good, and I like it. So that's just my opinion, of course. And this is Rick, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.